Part 63. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 621. Feng Qingyang said in a cold voice, "Humph, don't try to take advantage of me. You made me the head of the family because you want to trap me here? I've long been tired of staying in this sword refining sect. If I didn't want to follow you after finding out about my mother, how could I have stayed with you for so many years? Feng Anhe, don't tell me that my mother can't stay in Lao Shi's sword refining sect because of the ancestral training. Your mother, that's because I didn't want to involve her, so I let her go back to her parents' home." Feng Anhe sighed, as if talking to himself. Your mother is from the Yao realm. If you really want to find her, then go ahead. Yajing. Feng Anhe, don't lie to me. I know your ability to act crazy and act stupid. Do you deliberately want me to find a needle in a haystack and stay here? Feng Qingyang thought in his heart that he had lost his face and spoke without any scruples. Do I still need to lie to you? We, the Feng family, don't need to stay here. Our ancestral teachings are considered completed, but also unfinished. Anyway, the Sky Fire Dragon is dead, and the Feng family does not need to continue to guard here. From now on, you do whatever you want. As for the shuttle, I gave that little brother a reward to go to Yaoshi Valley to ask for medicine to save you. After saying that, he glanced at Xianxia in the darkness. The somewhat vicissitudes of his gaze actually made Xianxia feel a little unbearable. Since the ancestral precepts no longer need to be observed, if you want to enter the secret realm of the heavenly book, I can send you in. However, don't think about finding the heavenly book. All the people who come to the secret realm of the heavenly book are doing it for the heavenly book. You can imagine how fierce the fighting was. You are just better at escaping, but grabbing the heavenly book. Humph, Feng Qingyang snorted coldly, isn't that because you don't let me practice other techniques? Wait, what is the Sky Fire Dragon you are talking about? It can be said that he knows nothing about everything about the Feng family. This was the first time he heard the words Sky Fire Dragon. But from Feng Anhe's words, it can be heard that their ancestral precepts seem to be for this. The heavenly fire dragon is a sky fire. It is actually the earthly fire that you think we have in Huayden Valley. In order to avoid causing shock to the Peepa realm, it is suppressed here and guarded by our Feng family. Now that the heavenly fire dragon is gone, it doesn't make any sense anymore. So, I can tell you whatever you want to know. And, from now on, there will be no taboos. You mean, you won't care about me in the future? Feng Qingyang asked with a frown. What you want to do is your freedom. But, I have one last request, which is that the Feng family's incense cannot be cut off. You must know that our Feng family actually comes from the spiritual world. They are all part of the ancestral teachings. As for the secret realm of the heavenly book, the heavenly book here also comes from the spiritual world. Feng Anhe had never told Zuyun these words. But in fact, Zuyun had already guessed something. If the secret realm of the heavenly book had nothing to do with Huayden Valley, how could he, Feng Anhe, know something about the heavenly book? However, Feng Anhe showed good intentions at that time, so Zuyun did not ask too much, and he also decided to enter the secret realm of the heavenly book. The heavenly book is also something he must obtain. Compared to Feng Qingyang, the one who was even more shocked was Xianxia. She had some doubts as to whether Feng Anhe was deliberately acting for her to see. What are the ancestral teachings of the Feng family, what are the heavenly fire dragons, and what come from the spiritual world? No matter what the content was, she was extremely shocked. Originally, she only wanted to find a breakthrough opportunity in the secret realm of the Book of Heaven, and she even made such plans for Feng Qingyang. It would be the best outcome if we could meet Zhongjiangjao, who had already absorbed Lian Nishang's Yuanyin and had broken through to the nascent soul stage. She has never had any illusions about heavenly books or anything like that. She is a rare calm person among many monks. But at this time, listening to Feng Anhe's explanation of the matter, his heart was already numb with shock. She was so numb that she couldn't believe it. Far away, Zuyun took Lian Nishang and sat down against the cliff. It was blocked by the group of houses in the middle, so it was still hidden. This is the entrance bead, you take it? Then you and I will enter the secret realm of the Book of Heaven. Taking out an entry bead, Zuyun stuffed it into Lian Nishang's hand. Lian Nishang took it and looked at the round bead carefully. After a long while, he stuffed it back again. No, it's useless for me to want this bead now. How? Zuyun was stunned and said, you are not. Before she finished speaking, she was interrupted by Lian Nishang. She smiled faintly and said, originally, I entered the secret realm of the heavenly book to help Master complete the mission. If possible, kill Xianxia again. But now, I can't go back to the Fire Dragon sect, and there's no point in entering the secret realm of the heavenly book. If you want to go in, just go in, I'll just wait for you in Huayden Valley. Fairy Lian, you should know that when the secret realm of the heavenly book opens, there will definitely be many nascent soul stages coming over, right? If you stay in the Huayden Valley, it might be bad. Zuyun randomly found a reason. Although it is more convenient for him to move alone, there is always a feeling in his heart that makes him feel that staying in Lian Nishang is not a wise decision. Then there's no use if I go in. Lian Nishang looked at Zuyun and said, it doesn't matter whether it's useful or not, but at least after entering the secret realm of the Book of Heaven, it will be in the elixir forming stage, so there will be no danger at all. Furthermore, Xianxia can't even recognize you, let alone Xianxia. As long as we don't get into the crowd, we should be safe. Don't worry, I will protect you. Lian Nishang had already decided not to go, but when she heard Zuyun's last words, she couldn't help but feel warm in her heart. Protect me? That. Just go. So, she suddenly reached out and snatched the entrance bead from Zuyun's hand, and carefully put it into her arms. That's what you said. I just treat it as a sightseeing tour, and I don't want to fight for anything. Zuyun smiled and said, that's not the case. I heard old man Feng say that the secret realm of the Book of Heaven is opened once every 1,000 years, and there are also rare elixirs in it. It will be a worthwhile trip to collect some when the time comes. It's not bad to treat it as a normal treasure hunt. Lian Nishang nodded repeatedly with a smile on his face. They didn't know that Xianxia and Feng Qingyang on the other side already knew the meaning of the existence of the secret realm of the Book of Heaven. You mean, the secret realm of the Book of Heaven is basically a conspiracy? Feng Qingyang's voice trembled. Before, he wanted to enter the secret realm of the Book of Heaven. He just wants to grab the heavenly book, and then use his unique wind spirit power to prevent everyone from catching up with him. After the secret realm is over, he can find a safe place to practice the skills in the heavenly book. He wants to become stronger more than anyone else. Everything is disguised. Why read all the beauties in the world? In fact, it is just to have enough strength to find his mother. But now, Feng Anhe told him that the secret realm of the Book of Heaven was a deceptive conspiracy. How could he accept it? You go in and take a look, just treat it as an experience. Don't think about seizing the Book of Heaven. Feng Anhe emphasized again. Senior Feng, you mean that in the secret realm of the heavenly book, there is actually no heavenly book? Xianxia finally couldn't help but ask. No, it's true that there is a heavenly book. I've said it before, the heavenly book comes from the spiritual world. It's just that ordinary people can't practice this heavenly book. I know you won't believe it no matter what I say, maybe, you go to the secret realm and you will know when you come out. Feng Anhe sighed and said, however, I can only send one person into the secret realm of the Book of Heaven at a time. She has a portal bead. Feng Qingyang said immediately. But Zhou Yingxia's expression changed and she said in shock, "How do you know?" Feng Qingyang laughed and said, "I smell the scent of the beads. Originally, I went to Beiwa City just to steal the beads. But I didn't expect that you also have them. This is just right, let's go to the secret realm of the Book of Heaven together. How about a break-in?" You. Zhou Yingxia's face turned cold, and she thought for a long time that she had no conflict of interest with him. She went there for the Book of Heaven, and I didn't want the Book of Heaven. In this case, it is impossible to say that he can really be used. When I meet Zhong Jiangjio, if there is a chance, I can really ask him to help. That's right, that's it. You are so awesome. Zhou Yingxia changed her tone in the blink of an eye and said, "In this way, we can go into the secret realm of the Book of Heaven together to take a look." Feng Anhe looked at the two people suspiciously. When Zhou Yingxia changed his face, he faintly felt something was wrong. But looking at it now, it looks extremely normal. Is it my imagination? He couldn't be sure. But what is certain is that both of them believe what they say. I hope they won't die inside. Feng Anhe was full of confidence in Feng Qinjiang's ability to escape. From childhood to adulthood, he had watched Feng Qingyang practice, which was to cultivate wind spirit power. Even at the nascent soul stage, Feng Qingyang had a 50% chance of escaping. Just a shuttle. For a moment, Feng Anhe felt a little regretful. If the shuttle was still here with Feng Qingyang, there wouldn't be any problem for the Shu secret realm and his party that day. But after giving it all, Feng Anhe couldn't ask for it from Zuyun. After all, he still planned to let Zuyun take him to the spirit world. He has a good vision, and he saw Zuyun deal with the Lord of Beiwa City with his own eyes in Huaydan Valley. No matter from any aspect, it is enough to illustrate Zuyun's ability. Calm, witty and adaptable. They are all the beauties among their peers. If he breaks through to the nascent soul stage in the future, his future will be limitless. At the same time, he also had the weapon refining room, which made Feng Anhe even more optimistic about Zuyun. He never told Zuyun the origin of the fragments. That's the real secret. It cannot be said. Seeing that both of them gradually believed in him, Feng Anhe picked some important things about the secret realm of the Book of Heaven to talk about. This said, it was said until dawn. Zuyun and Lian Nishang both chose to practice. Now, they just need to wait for the secret realm of the Book of Heaven to open. And in the Fire Dragon sect. Suddenly two nuns wearing veils appeared at the door. Who is coming? The Fire Dragon sect is closing the mountain, and outsiders are not allowed to enter. A mountain guarding disciple couldn't help but swallow his saliva when he looked at the two graceful figures. Although he couldn't see his face clearly, he could imagine how beautiful she was under the veil. Sun Qiniang laughed and said, "My fellow Taoist from the Fire Dragon sect, I have long admired the Fire Dragon sect and heard that it is the largest sect within 1,000 miles. So I brought my sister to join the Fire Dragon section. I hope my fellow Taoist will help me." After saying that, she tore off the veil on her face, revealing her beautiful face. At the same time, Meng Hui also showed his face. She was so beautiful that countless disciples of the Fire Dragon sect who were not far from the mountain gate looked over here. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 622. An early Jindan cultivator comes to our Hualong sect with a foundation building cultivator. That's not a big deal. We are indeed short of people in Hualong sect recently, but if it's a male cultivator, it's fine, but a female cultivator. The young sect master has great power recently, I'm afraid. These people hesitated to speak, and some of the words they said were not dared to be said in public. The young sect master they were talking about was naturally Zhong Jiangjio. These days have passed, Zhong Jingguo has not come back, and those Yuanyings don't want to take the blame, so naturally let Zhong Jiangjio do it, and no one cares about him at all. Even, he was allowed to act in the sect. And Xianxia couldn't find Lian Nishang, and there was no Xianxia around to give him advice. Naturally, some problems arose in his heart. Over the years, under the instruction of Zhong Jingguo, he has been secretly practicing a dual cultivation method, which could have suppressed the lust in his body. But the sect had undergone a series of dramatic changes. At this time, Zhong Jingguo and Xianxia were not there. He had also experienced the incident of not being able to find Lian Nishang. Under such circumstances, he actually became somewhat dissolute. However, he still had some reason. There were not many female cultivators in the Fire Dragon sect, and as the young master, he naturally could not do anything to the female disciples in the sect, so he turned his mind to the outside world. From time to time, he would go out of the sect to have fun in the market where there were more cultivators. Today, he happened to be away from the sect. Otherwise, these ordinary disciples would definitely rush to inform Zhong Jiangjia. Compared with the somewhat indifferent Mengwei, Sun Qiniang was generous and generous. Wherever she looked, she nodded and smiled, appearing to be very polite. She wanted to sneak into the Fire Dragon sect first and inquire about Zhu Yun's news. If she could help Chen Hua get revenge, it would be great. The disciples guarding the mountain gate naturally knew Zhong Jiangjiao's character recently. He was guarding here and had seen more than anyone else present. After all, Zhong Jiangjiao had to pass by him when he went out, so he knew where Zhong Jiangjiao had gone. If the two women were introduced into the sect, the young master might even give them a reward. Thinking of this, he immediately said to Sun Qiniang, "We cannot make decisions on such important matters, but the two fairies can enter the sect first. When the young master comes back, he can make a decision." This was exactly what Sun Qiniang wanted. She smiled and thanked him repeatedly. "Get out of the way, get out of the way. I want to take the two fairies to the young master's mansion first." This disciple was bossy and told his companions to keep an eye on the mountain gate. He personally led the two into the Fire Dragon sect. Mengwei and Sun Qiniang kept looking at it, but they were thinking in their hearts, is the Fire Dragon sect so easy to enter? It's not a legend. This is also a top sect in the Peepa realm. The cultivators there are definitely not ordinary people. But looking all the way here, there are not many people in the Jindan stage. After a battle with the demon control saint sect, and after absorbing many foundation building disciples, those who can still walk around freely outside are naturally ordinary disciples of the External Affairs Hall. Those who have a little realm have been transferred to the Internal Affairs Hall. Under the guidance of this disciple, the two came to an independent courtyard. This is the residence of Zhong Jiangjiao and Xianxia. However, Xianxia escaped from the Fire Dragon sect, and the wing room on one side was empty, just right for them to temporarily settle down. After the disciple told them not to walk around, he also left. He didn't need to wait here. If Zhong Jiangjiao came back, he would definitely pass by the mountain gate first, and then he would just let him know. After the disciple left, Sun Qiniang and Mengwei talked in a low voice, talking about their own guesses. But they didn't have too many thoughts when they first arrived. As for the possible dangers, they didn't care at all, and they thought that Aniao must be watching in the sky, and once there was a situation, he would come down to pick them up. Little did they know. Aniao had long been affected by the breath that rushed out after the 12 statues in the demon refining tower were shattered, and was now in a coma in the deep mountains far away from here. As for when she would wake up, no one knew. How do we ask this so-called young master about Zhu Yun's situation later? Mengwei was more concerned about Zhu Yun and asked. There is no rush for Zhu Yun. The senior told me in person that Zhu Yun is still in the Fire Dragon sect, but he is very safe. What I am worried about now is that if he knows we are here, will he come to find us? They didn't know that Zhu Yun had left the Fire Dragon sect a long time ago. But you can't use your name, so you have to find a way to let the people in the sect know my name. Meng Wei knew that Zuyun was very concerned about her life and death, and he thought that there was no one with the same name as him. Even if there was, with Zuyun's cautious nature, he would definitely come to take a look. Sun Qinyang smiled and said, "Yes, I thought so too. Originally, I could just use my name, but there is no other way. I can only be called Sun Tianming now. No matter how hard Zuyun tries, he can't think that it is me." "Then use my name," Meng Wei agreed with a smile, got up and walked into the courtyard, saying, "Do you think we should go out and take a look now?" Sun Qinyang thought for a while and said, "I'm afraid it's not appropriate. We are unfamiliar with the place. I don't know if we will be stopped by someone. What if there is a forbidden place here and we can't get out after entering?" "That's true," Meng Wei nodded. Just as he was about to go back to the house to wait, he saw a flame rushing over from not far away. When the flame landed, it suddenly turned into a heroic man. His strength reached the peak of the late Jindan stage, but his expression was a little messy and listless. "Have the two fairies just arrived in the sect?" The person who came was Xianxia. "Yes." Sun Qinyang deliberately protected Meng Wei, stepped forward, and said with a bow, "Ha ha ha, what a coincidence. I am the young master of the Fire Dragon sect, Xianxia. I heard from the disciples guarding the mountain gate that you two want to join our Fire Dragon sect." "So it's the young master," Sun Qinyang bowed again and said in a delicate voice, "My name is Sun Tianming, this is my sister, Meng Wei. We have long admired the Fire Dragon sect and have come from afar, hoping to join the Fire Dragon sect. I hope the young master can agree. The two fairies are so beautiful, if they can join our Fire Dragon sect, Zhong will be more than happy." But a hint of lust flashed in Zhong Jiangjiao's eyes. If he hadn't just returned from the mountain, he would have wanted to kill them on the spot. The Sun Qinyang and Meng Wei in front of him were completely different from the prostitutes he enjoyed when he went out, and they were also completely different from the Lian Nishang he had coveted for a long time. How could he let go of these fairies who came to his door? However, the more this kind of female cultivator, the more stubborn her character is, so he decided to stabilize the two of them first. As long as they stay in the Fire Dragon sect, are they afraid of not having a chance? So, he would whet the appetite of the two. But what? Sun Qinyang raised her eyebrows and asked. "This is the residence of my young sect master, and the house where the two fairies are staying belongs to my sister Xianxia. After you two join the sect, you naturally cannot live here, so Zhong will find a new place for you two. Of course, you will not live with those ordinary disciples of the External Affairs Hall or the Internal Affairs Hall." The eyes of the two girls lit up, and Sun Qinyang immediately said, "Then I will trouble the young sect master to lead the way. After my sister and I join the Fire Dragon sect, we will definitely do our best to contribute our strength to the Fire Dragon sect." "Ha ha ha, it's too early for this, the two fairies should get familiar with our Fire Dragon sect first. You two, follow me first." When Zhong Jiangjiao made up his mind, he already had a place to go. He wanted to make these two girls into canaries in the sect, which he could only enjoy, and it was impossible for others to see them. Then, there was only one place suitable. It was the valley where no one had left. Just tell them not to enter the back valley without permission. But it was impossible for them to go there, after all, that was the place leading to the mountain protection formation. Without the formation order, it was impossible to cross the iron chain bridge. As for the other disciples, it was impossible for them to go there. Following Zhong Jiangjiao all the way to the valley, the two girls secretly noted down what they saw and the route, while carefully communicating through their eyes. The valley was one of the secondary formation eyes, and naturally it was also deep into the Fire Dragon sect. They were all people with vision, and they were also on guard in their hearts. But at this time, Zhong Jiangjao was not in a hurry to succeed. Compared with the caution of the two women, he needed to completely eliminate them before he had a chance. He didn't want to force himself on her. That's why he expressed his goodwill in this way. Zhong Jiangjao was a reckless person, but he was not stupid. But before, with Xianxia around, he didn't need to use his brain. Now he is the only one left, and Zhong Jingguo is not around, so he can only rely on himself. Here. As soon as the two women entered the valley, Meng Wei saw a huge magma pool on the open ground in the valley. This was the huge pit that Zuyun used the self-detonation array to kill Tianzhenzi and the 13th elder of the Beast Pet Pavilion. Because the power was too great, it exploded all the way to the ground vein, and the magma surged up. Meng Wei practiced the spirit fire symbiosis art, and this art actually came from the fire dragon sect, so he naturally felt the strong fire power. Here. Zhong Jiangjiao's eyes turned, and he thought of a reason, so he said, "This is the pool where I practiced the fire system before, and ordinary people are not allowed to enter." I saw this fairy, and the aura on her body made Zhong particularly familiar, so I thought of this place. These words just hit Meng Wei's heart. In the 10,000 mountains, she didn't practice well. It's not that she doesn't want to, but the conditions are really limited. After all, the 100,000 mountains still belong to the Yao realm, and the level of spiritual energy in the air is simply incomparable to the Peepa realm. Not to mention, there is no ground fire there, and it is even more difficult for her to practice. At this time, Meng Wei had countless thoughts and wanted to jump into the pool just like that. "So that's how it is," Meng Wei nodded and said, "Thank you, young sect master, for your peace of mind. I like this place very much. As long as the fairy likes it. You two are new here, you should have a good rest for a few days. I will come to see you again in a few days." Zhong Jiangjao still knows the principle of playing the long game to catch big fish. He deliberately said this to eliminate their concerns, but in fact, he was planning to make some preparations. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 623. Wei, you. After Zhong Jiangjao left, Sun Qiniang immediately asked. She felt a little strange about Meng Wei's reaction. Because the two of them had already discussed it on the way here. Meng Wei is of low level, so Sun Qiniang has to step in for everything. But just now, Meng Wei spoke up. From Jian Tianming's memory, she knew Meng Wei very well. As the young master of Yaoluo sect, Meng Wei was quite sensible. "I can't control the spiritual fire in my body." Meng Wei didn't hide anything, and said, "Maybe it's related to the fire technique I practice. Sun Tianming, please help me go to the mountain pass to guard it. I want to practice in this earth vein fire." Huh. Sun Qiniang was surprised and said, "Have you finally remembered to practice?" "What, is it weird for me to practice?" Meng Wei rolled his eyes at Sun Qiniang, and then said with a smile, "Hurry up, maybe with this earth fire, I can practice faster. If I surpass you, do you think I will beat you?" "Ha ha ha, it's not that easy." Sun Qiniang also smiled and said, "If that day comes, I would be willing to compete with you. However, it will be as Sun Qiniang, not as Jian Tianming. I don't care who you are, I haven't had a fight in a long time and my bones are itching." Meng Wei also smiled and jumped into the magma pool. She quickly activated the spiritual fire symbiosis technique, and the earthly fire in her body seemed to wake up from a deep sleep, and actually revealed a joyful mood. Meng Wei felt a little strange at first, but after thinking about it carefully, he understood. This earth fire was originally taken by Zuyun from Ye Xianming. In order to save her life, he then forced her to form a connection with the earth fire, mainly due to the relationship between the spiritual fire symbiosis technique. As for this earth fire, it originally absorbed the fire dragon sect's earth vein fire to become bigger and stronger. At this time, it's like revisiting the old place. How can you not be happy? Daihuo's mood was high, which was also a good thing for Mengwei. The skills belonging to the fire dragon sect were originally cultivated and absorbed by the earth vein fire. With the combination of the two, Mengwei was surprised to find that he didn't even need to practice it himself. The earth fire did everything. The fire spiritual power in the earth vein fire, after being transformed by the earth fire, turned into streams of pure spiritual power that traveled throughout Mengwei's body. And she had already experienced the core formation stage, but under the foundation establishment, there was no bottleneck at all. Just a moment later, Sun Qiniang, who was bored at the entrance of the valley and dancing with her sword with her fingers, felt an aura of breakthrough coming from behind her. She suddenly came back to her senses and realized that Mengwei was actually making a breakthrough. Sun Qiniang was stunned, just watching Mengwei go from the early stage of foundation building to the middle stage of foundation building. Sudden breakthrough. Seeing that the frantic fire spiritual power on the magma pool suddenly calmed down, she swallowed and muttered to herself in disbelief. Breakthrough. Mengwei's head emerged from the pool with the lava on his head and he said with a smile. She didn't even expect this. But I just finished speaking. The earth fire once again began to absorb fire spiritual power. From the initial breakthrough to the middle stage, the danshan becomes larger, and relatively speaking, more spiritual power is required. The stronger Mengwei is, the stronger it will naturally be. The secret of the symbiosis of spirit and fire lies in the word symbiosis. In addition to symbiosis, there is also co-strength. Ever since Zuyun forcibly connected the earth fire with Mengwei's mind, earth fire, who had some intelligence, had always felt aggrieved. Because Mengwei almost has no intention of practicing. This made Daihuo very distressed. If Mengwei dies, under the spiritual fire symbiosis technique, his soul will be dispersed and his spirit will disappear, and he will return to heaven and earth from now on. Any spiritual creature wants to live forever, and then it instinctively wants to become stronger. Earth fire wanted to resist, but it was dominated by Mengwei, so it was unable to resist at all. But at this time, it finally returned to a familiar place, and Mengwei wanted to practice. Under such circumstances, why didn't it seize the time? What if this unreliable master suddenly stops practicing at the next moment? There will be no place to cry. It was with this thought in mind that Daihuo continued to practice, which in turn allowed Mengwei to sit back and enjoy the success. Of course, the reason why the breakthrough can be so fast is because of Mengwei's previous state. Otherwise, no matter how hard the earth fire absorbs it, it would not be possible for Mengwei to break through so easily. Sun Qiniang just stared blankly. An hour later, Mengwei broke through to the late stage of foundation building. No. Impossible, this is impossible. She was completely dumbfounded. Could it be possible that the casual joke he made earlier really hit the mark? But soon, Sun Qiniang felt happy for Mengwei from the bottom of her heart. If so, for them, there are only advantages and no disadvantages. Outside the fire dragon sect. Suddenly, a terrifying momentum fell from the sky. The two disciples guarding the mountain gate saw a person in front of their eyes. I've met the sect master. They stood there for a moment, then quickly knelt down. Congratulations to the sect master. Inside the mountain gate, all the disciples who passed by knelt down and shouted in unison, welcome the sect master to return to the sect. They did not suppress spiritual power at all. The sound completely spread to the depths of the sect. A moment later, more than 10 nascent soul breaths came one after another. All the elders are here. I've met the sect master. Zhong Jingguo looked around and then raised his hand slightly. Everyone, Get up. Yes, sect master. Zhong Jingguo's face was stern and he said, what happened recently? Why did I notice that there were so many fewer disciples in the sect? This. All the elders looked at each other in confusion, and finally Elder Dan stood up. Back to the sect master, a lot of things have happened recently. I would like to ask the sect master to move to the sect master's hall. I will explain it in detail. Zhong Jingguo glanced at Elder Dan, then withdrew his gaze and said, it just so happens that my sect master also has something to announce, so let's go to the sect master's hall first. As soon as the words fell, Zhong Jingguo disappeared. A group of elders quickly followed. They had already agreed on how to deal with Zhong Jingguo. On the contrary, they are interested in what kind of news Zhong Jingguo can bring. In the sect master's hall, all the elders stood in their positions. Zhong Jingguo cleared his throat, stood up, and said, this time, the chief master of the Beast Pet Pavilion has announced a big event. After the incident in the secret realm of the Heavenly Book, all nascent soul stages must be prepared. All nascent soul stages. Hearing these 5 words, everyone was shocked. The nascent soul stage is the strongest state in the mortal world. Suddenly summoned, and all the sects were summoned, this was more than just a big event. Dan Lao concentrated on refining elixirs and wanted to make a breakthrough in the way of elixirs. If so, it affected his cultivation, so he naturally objected in his heart, so he stood up and asked, Sect Master, can you tell me what's going on? What's the matter? Let's not talk about it for now. I can only tell you that it is related to the future of our people realm. In recent years, our major sects have fought fiercely in the open and secretly. This is why some remnants of the demonic path are lingering and secretly rest and recuperate, and may even instigate hatred between some of our sects. In fact, there are 2 major things. The first one, I can say bluntly, is to clean up the people realm and eliminate all demonic people after the secret realm of the Heavenly Book. The second thing, I can only say, is about the passage to the spiritual world. As soon as these words came out, the whole place was in an uproar. Everyone was extremely excited except for Dan Lao. It is true that most of them have not reached the peak of the later stage, and they are at least 100 years away from breaking through the divine transformation stage, and at most hundreds of years. But over the past 100 years, the news that all attempts to explore the passage to the spiritual world had ended in failure cast a shadow over their yearning for cultivation. But Zhong Jingguo brought such news, which was equivalent to the dawn after the shadow. Then why do you have to wait until after the secret realm of the Book of Heaven? No one noticed the embarrassed look on Mr. Dan's face anymore, and someone stood up and asked. The secret realm of the Book of Heaven is actually a bait. The chief pavilion master said that it is a human or a ghost, and we will be able to see clearly when the time comes. Moreover, as this is the biggest event in recent times, he believes that there will be many people from the devil's path who will also enter to snatch the Book of Heaven. Zhong Jingguo explained. Everyone was extremely excited and talked a lot. Zhong Jingguo did not stop him, but set his sights on Dan Lao. Elder Dan, do you have any objections? The surrounding area became quiet. Elder Dan showed a bitter look on his face and said, Sect Master, this is the result of a discussion among all your sections. No matter how much I have any objections, there is nothing I can do about it. I hope you can handle yourself well, Zhong Jingguo said calmly, we are all doing it for all the righteous monks in the people realm. We, the Fire Dragon sect, are the leader in the northwest of the people realm, so we should be the first to express our stance. Why? Elder Dan sighed and said, Sect Master, there is one more thing I need to report to you. What's the matter? Zhong Jingguo raised his eyebrows. They were both direct disciples of the ancestor of the Fire Dragon sect, and Elder Dan could be considered a person of some status. He has to give this face. Lian Nishang is missing. I don't know if it has anything to do with the young sect master. Is this happening? Zhong Jingguo tensed up and stood up immediately. Refining Nishang is an important part of his plan. If Lian Nishang disappears, Zhong Jiangjio will not be able to break through the nascent soul stage in a short time, and he will not be able to let go and open the channel to the spirit world with those sect masters to fight for the god transformation stage. Not only is Lian Nishang missing, but Zhong Xianxia is also missing. Perhaps they secretly escaped from the sect. Dan Lao was actually very protective of Ni Chang, but he didn't know that Zhong Jingguo wanted to make Lian Ni Chang become Zhong Jiangjio's help in breaking through the nascent soul. Otherwise, no matter what, he would leave the Fire Dragon sect with Lian Nishang. The reason why I brought Zhong Xianxia with me was because I subconsciously wanted to add a talisman to Lian Nishang. Unfortunately, he overlooked one point. Zhong Jingguo doesn't care about Zhong Xianxia. In fact, Zhong Xianxia is just one of Zhong Jingguo's tools to help Zhong Jiangjio. However, at this time, Zhong Jingguo could not show it, but frowned and said, Xianxia and Nishang have been on good terms since childhood. Did they secretly go out to play? Or did they go to Huayton Valley first? I'll go find the fire dragon and ask him if the 4 gateway beads are still there. Zhong Jingguo stood up and was about to run away when he heard someone suddenly shout, Sect Master, stay. The fire dragon is also gone. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 624. What? The fire dragon is missing? Where did it go? Zhong Jingguo stopped abruptly and turned around, his face looking particularly ferocious. We didn't know that the Supreme Elder showed up once before, but then disappeared. Now he is missing like the fire dragon. Another elder stood up and said. Zhong Jingguo's face was extremely gloomy. The Supreme Elder had been in seclusion for many years. Why did he suddenly appear and then disappear together with the fire dragon? Could it be? As the leader of the sect, he knew the elder Chief Yushin very well. As one of the 4 direct descendants of the fire dragon sect, Chief Yushin devoted himself to refining weapons and wanted to break through the fog of the spiritual world passage by refining a supreme spiritual weapon. When I was still the young sect master, he accidentally let it slip. He said that the spiritual weapon would be a staff-style weapon called the Fire Dragon Staff. Could it be that he refined the Fire Dragon? Thinking of this, Zhong Jingguo felt chills all over his body. If something happens to the Fire Dragon and someone attacks the Fire Dragon sect, they will be in trouble. This time, with the help of the Chief Master of the Beast Pet Pavilion, all the sects reached an agreement. For now, there should be a honeymoon period in a short period of time. No, I have to go to Chief Yushin's place. Zhong Jingguo no longer wanted to stay here, but walked away directly, heading straight for the main formation. There is a road in the sect master's hall that leads directly to the main formation I. There is no need to go from the valley, so you will not pass the iron cable bridge at all, let alone see the magic weapons and spiritual weapons that are full of the iron cable bridge. Soon, he appeared in the main formation of the mountain protection formation and came to the cave where Chief Yushin was retreating. Uncle Chi, are you here? He believed that even if Chief Yushin refined the fire dragon into a magic weapon, he would definitely not leave in a short time. After all, how long had he been gone? Jingguo, why are you here? In the cave, Chief Yushin slowly opened his eyes when he heard Zhong Jingguo's voice. He glanced at the picture on the cave wall. After such a long time, there was nothing unusual at all, so he looked away, and the next moment, he appeared outside the cave. Uncle Chi, do you know where this fire dragon has gone? If he went straight to the point, Chief Yushin's eyes would shrink. The fire dragon almost died tragically in his hands, but in the end, even the body was gone. Of course, he only knew that Zuyun had stolen the body of the fire dragon and his fire dragon staff. But he didn't know that Zuyun had already fled to Huayton Valley thousands of miles away. The fire dragon and I had some misunderstandings and hid in the earth's veins. Qi Fuxian cannot fall out with Zhong Jingguo at this time. In terms of fighting ability, he is not as good as Zhong Jingguo. In the ley lines, Zhong Jingguo looked directly into Qi Fuxian's eyes, but how could such an old fox let Zhong Jingguo see any clues? Yes, you should know, right? I have been refining a fire dragon staff for 100 years, and I also asked for some reverse scales from the fire dragon. This time, my staff is about to become big, so I want to ask him for some dragon blood. Who would have thought that the fire dragon refused to obey and even fought with me? But after all, he is the guardian beast of our fire dragon section. How could I hurt him? He hasn't come out yet. That's why I set a trap at the iron chain bridge to lure him out. It's a pity that he hasn't shown up after so long. Zhong Jingguo thought about the flaws in Qi Fuxian's words word for word in his heart. But it was nowhere to be found. He also didn't expect that Qi Fuxian would openly admit that he had a fight with the fire dragon. If we continue to blame him for this, he will be in a small position. Uncle Qi, you are refining the fire dragon staff to pass through the spiritual world. Zhong Jingguo knew that Qi Fuxian was very strict with his mouth and it was impossible for him to find words, so he simply decided to tell him what happened in the pet pavilion. Of course, if we, as cultivators, can't go to the next place to seek breakthroughs, what's the point of staying in the Peeper realm? Qi Fuxian frowned and said, Jingguo, if you have anything to say, just say it. That's it, Uncle Qi. We were summoned by the chief master of the Beast Pet Pavilion and held a meeting. After the meeting, we all reached a consensus. Zhong Jingguo once again repeated what he said in the sect master's hall. Suddenly, Qi Fuxian's eyes lit up. You mean, all the sects have agreed? And, all the nascent soul stages? The last time he and many nascent soul stages worked together was 100 years ago, when they went to the Lin family to intimidate and lure them, but it turned into a massacre, and no purpose was achieved at all. That's right, as soon as they reach the nascent soul stage, they will all gather at the entrance to the spirit world passage. As for how to get there, the Beast Pet Pavilion will take the lead, and they are already preparing. However, the specific time will have to wait until the end of the secret realm of the Heavenly Book, and then after destroying all the demonic monks in the Peeper realm, prepare to go to the passage. Qi Fuxian pondered for a moment and said, why are you suddenly involved in the Devil's Path? Uncle Qi, the master of the puppet control demon sect is now hiding in the Peeper realm. If this master of the demon sect has mastered the 9 generations of demon skills, I am afraid he will be unmatched. Back then, our major sects also joined forces to suppress him. As a result, let him escape. Even if we successfully pass through the spiritual world, he will still hunt us down. We all agree on this matter. Zhong Jintian also said this deliberately. If he said anything, the master of the demon sect would retaliate against the major sects, and Qi Fuxian would definitely not care. At that time, others were already in the spirit world, so how could they still care so much? I know this, I know. Qi Fuxian nodded and said, that old guy is by no means simple. In short, you should arrange this matter carefully so that our fire dragon sect's nascent soul stage should not be damaged as much as possible. Maybe after this incident, the Peeper realm will be restored. Shuffled. Zhong Jingguo was overjoyed and said, Uncle Qi, are you planning to refine magic weapons for us? I don't have time to refine them. Qi Fuxian waved his hand and said, there are dozens of magic weapons on the iron cable bridge, including many spiritual weapons. You ask all those nascent soul descendants to come and pick one. Very good. Zhong Jingguo was overjoyed. Even if he knew that Qi Fuxian had ulterior motives, it was also his purpose to enhance the nascent soul stage of his subordinates for no reason. Uncle Qi, are you still looking for the fire dragon? Do you want my nephew to ask all the disciples to help detect this earth vein fire? Qi Fuxian was overjoyed, but his face remained calm as he said, "This couldn't be better. If you can find the fire dragon, don't scare the snake. Uncle Chi, I'll talk to him personally." "Yes, yes, my nephew knows. My nephew will do it now." Zhong Jingguo and Qi Fuxian each got what they needed and separated. He quickly returned to the sect master's hall and immediately told the rest of the nascent soul stage the news. Suddenly, a group of people turned from shock to ecstasy. If there are magical weapons and spiritual weapons that Qi Fuxian refines, when the powerful leaders of the Peeper realm gather together, their fire dragon sect will definitely have a place and will definitely have the right to speak. No one knows what dangers there are in the spiritual world passage. After all, everyone who entered it died, and there was no feedback at all. Since the fire dragon sect has a greater say, no one will let them be used as cannon fodder. After all, strength is the most important thing. It's time for the fire dragon sect to show their strength. Zhong Jingguo's eyes flickered, but he was still somewhat worried. Their supreme elder has been released from seclusion, so will the other sect's hidden powers also have the conditions to improve their sect's physical strength? It seems that you can't be too proud. After seeing Zhong Jingguo off, Qi Fuxian came to the iron chain bridge. Looking from top to bottom, he didn't feel any connection with the fire dragon staff at all. Could it be that the boy ran away with the fire dragon staff? In this case, there may be another way out under the ground. If that is the case, where will the boy run to? At this time, the other elders received news from Zhong Jingguo, and under his leadership, they had arrived at the iron chain bridge. Without the protection of the fire dragon, there is no need for the formation protection order to reach here. Even Zhong Jiangjio, instructed by Zhong Jingguo, is heading here. I've met the Supreme Elder. All the nascent souls suppressed the excitement in their hearts and went to see Qi Fuxian first. After all, these are the treasures that Qi Fuxian has treasured for thousands of years, which will qualitatively improve their strength. To them, this is something they get for free. Let's all go, first come first served, remember not to fight over it, so as not to hurt the harmony. Qi Fuxian waved his hand, and these people moved one after another like a pack of wolves that had discovered their prey. At this moment, a sudden fire appeared on the side leading to the valley, and an extremely pure fire spiritual power was transmitted to this place. Zhong Jingguo was stunned for a moment, and couldn't help blurting out, "Hey, someone has broken through the core formation stage. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills." Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 625. If it were usual, he would not care at all if someone broke through the Jindan stage. A sect leader like him could not care about everything. But in the battle with the Yao Saint sect, their Hualong sect lost countless Jindan stage warriors. This sudden breakthrough naturally attracted his attention. Not only him, but the other Yuanying stage warriors also looked towards the passage in the valley. "Go and see who broke through in this valley." Zhong Jingguo gave an order, and the Yuanying stage warriors who got the handy spiritual tools, including Dan Lao, followed closely. Not long after, they saw a huge spiritual power cyclone appearing above a fire pool. Female cultivator. Zhong Jingguo just swept his spiritual consciousness and immediately found Meng Wei among them. This beautiful face made him breathe. What surprised him even more was that he found that he didn't remember that there was such a beautiful disciple in the sect. "Does anyone recognize her?" Zhong Jingguo turned his head and asked. Zhong Jiangjio also came here with everyone. He immediately stepped forward to take credit and said, "Dad, this is the female cultivator that my son just accepted into the sect. I didn't expect that she could actually break through." He was also very surprised. If I remembered correctly, wasn't Meng Wei only in the initial stage of foundation building? How come he broke through to the Jindan stage after not seeing him for a day? Looking at the spiritual energy vortex, it seems that there is no sign of stopping. Could it be that he will continue to break through? Breakthrough just after entering the sect. Zhong Jingguo nodded slightly. He didn't know Menghui's original realm, and Zhong Jiangjao continued, Dad, my son accepted 2 female cultivators. I don't know where one of them is. There are 2 people. Zhong Jingguo immediately retracted his spiritual consciousness and dispersed towards the valley. Soon he found Sun Qinyang waiting at the entrance of the valley. Feeling this boundless momentum, Sun Qinyang's hair stood up. She was only in the initial stage of Jindan. Even if there was only a trace of this aura of the peak of the late Yuanying period, it was enough to make her terrified. Don't be afraid, I am the leader of the Fire Dragon section. Since you 2 sisters have joined my Fire Dragon sect, just stay here. Zhong Jingguo said lightly to comfort them. Finally, he retracted his gaze and looked at Menghui in the fire pool. With the spirit fire symbiosis art and her original realm, Menghui actually broke through to the middle stage of the Jindan stage before stopping. Gifted, gifted. This is the most gifted person I have ever seen after Nishang. Dan Lao seemed to remember something, muttered to himself for a while, and before everyone could react, he stepped forward and said to Zhong Jingguo, Master, I want to accept this female disciple as my disciple. Zhong Jingguo's eyes flashed with a gleam of light, and said, Dan Lao, you already have Nishang as your disciple, why do you still want her? Dan Lao said bluntly, Master, no one knows what will happen after the heavenly book secret realm. With my strength, I may not come back this time. I will inherit the alchemy of the Fire Dragon sect, and I must not lose it because of this, otherwise I will be a sinner for all eternity. Don't we still have Nishang? Zhong Jingguo said meaningfully. In his plan, Lian Nishang was a person who was bound to die. However, he didn't know that Lian Nishang was not in the sect. Instead, Elder Dan focused his attention on Zhong Jiangjao and said, I don't know where Nishang went. I wonder if the young master knows. I don't know. Nishang and my little sister disappeared together. Who knows if they went out to play? Zhong Jiangjao shook his head hurriedly. He always thought that it was Lian Nishang who had fought with him in the Iron Chain Bridge at that time. He didn't dare to tell this matter, otherwise Zhong Jingguo would blame him and he would probably not escape punishment. Nishang is missing. Sure enough, Zhong Jingguo's face sank. Lian Nishang is the most important part of Zhong Jiangjiao's breakthrough in the nascent soul stage, and it is also a crucial step for him to win the heavenly book. However, after the meeting of the Beast Pet Pavilion, they decided to join forces to break through the spiritual world channel. If they can succeed, whether there is a heavenly book or not is not so important. They can cultivate to this level, so their talent is naturally needless to say. But this affects whether Zhong Jiangjao can sit in the Fire Dragon sect in the future. The reason why he gave his full approval to all nascent souls to explore the spiritual world channel at the conference is that if it is feasible, they will go directly to the spiritual world. Then Zhong Jiangjao will definitely be the only nascent soul left in Peepa realm. In this way, the Fire Dragon sect will be the strongest person, and the Fire Dragon sect will be the strongest sect. But all this, with the disappearance of Lian Nishang, disrupted his plan. Elder Dan, Lian Nishang is your direct disciple. I think you have a way to find her location, right? Zhong Jingguo immediately stared at Elder Dan. But Elder Dan was powerless. If he could find her, why would he stay in the Fire Dragon sect? Because he also wanted to get the Book of Heaven. Elder Dan shook his head, and Zhong Jingguo's face immediately sank. At this time, Menghui suddenly made a delicate sound, and the whole person jumped out of the fire pool. The ground fire was brought up and exploded in the air like fireworks. Then, Menghui fell down like a fairy from the 9 heavens. Seeing a group of nascent souls around her, she couldn't help but tremble all over, and she was secretly on guard in her heart. Little girl, don't panic. Zhong Jingguo no longer argued with Dan Lao, but spoke kindly to Menghui. With such a face, No one would be able to get angry after seeing it. I am the leader of the Fire Dragon section. Listen to what my son said. You just joined our Fire Dragon sect today and you can break through to the middle stage of pill formation. I think you and my Fire Dragon sect are also destined. Zhong Jingguo changed his gloomy expression and said with a smile. I've met the sect master. Meng Wei had a delicate heart, and he immediately smiled and saluted. I have met the sect master, I have met the elders. Not bad, not bad. Zhong Jingguo was very satisfied and was about to say a few words to encourage Meng Wei, but unexpectedly, Dan Lao couldn't help but exclaimed. Such pure fire spiritual power, little girl, are you a single fire spiritual root? In fact, Meng Wei resurrected his life with almost no spiritual roots. And the reason why she was able to practice fire magic was because Zuyun forcibly stuffed the earth fire into her danshan. If you really want to talk about it, Meng Wei actually has no spiritual roots. She can absorb the power of fire because of the symbiosis between earth fire and spiritual fire. In other words, this earth fire became the fire root hidden in her danshan. So, right. Meng Wei hesitated for a moment, then agreed. From what she thought, if she could show off her talent, it might be easier to do things in the Fire Dragon sect. She was originally the young palace master of the Yaluo sect, and she was also a figure in the party. Naturally, she knew what kind of preferential treatment the sect would give to such a talented disciple. Hearing Meng Wei agreed, Elder Dan's eyes became even more joyful, and he immediately turned to Zhong Jingguo and said, Sect Master, please think twice. I am willing to accept her as a close disciple and teach her all the alchemy skills. Many nascent souls were present, and this reason was high-sounding. No matter from any aspect, it was for the Fire Dragon sect. If he doesn't agree again, he may lose his temper. Just when she decided to agree, unexpectedly, Meng Wei spoke. This senior, little girl, disciple is not interested in alchemy. He just wants to concentrate on practicing and break through the nascent soul stage as soon as possible. Meng Wei had previously looked down upon life and death, thinking that there was no hope of him breaking through the core formation. Unexpectedly, in the fire pond of the Fire Dragon sect, there would be such an adventure. If we can fight again, we may be able to break through the nascent soul stage. Then will we have longevity again? After many catastrophes, Meng Wei only has a few decades left in his life. There is no way she would choose to make alchemy. What? You don't want to make an elixir? At this time, Mr. Dan couldn't help being stunned. After a while, he pointed at himself and said, Little girl, do you know who I am? If someone dared to talk to her like this in normal times, Meng Wei would definitely give her a big mouth. But obviously, this is not a place where she can run wild. No matter it is the identity at this time or the other party's state. Elder, I'm very sorry. I have never been interested in alchemy, please forgive me. If anyone is willing to accept me as a disciple, I am willing to practice with all my heart and show my prestige as a teacher. After the words fell, Zhong Jingguo laughed and said to Meng Wei, Little girl, in the Fire Dragon sect, practicing the alchemy way or the weapon way is entirely voluntary. It just so happens that the leader of the sect is willing to accept a disciple. Are you willing? Meng Wei's eyes lit up and he immediately said, Disciple is willing. But what's the matter? Zhong Jingguo said bluntly, whatever you ask for, just ask for it. If this sect master can do it, I will naturally agree. Meng Wei raised his head and looked at the entrance of the valley and said, Disciple and sister depend on each other. I wonder if the sect leader can accept sister as his disciple? Disciple knows that sister is a sword cultivator, and the sect leader can't teach any magical powers. Disciple doesn't I dare to hope that the sect master can help my sister to come up with some high-quality skills, just let her be a registered disciple. Zhong Jingguo's spiritual consciousness just surged through him, and he naturally knew that Sun Qinyang was a sword cultivator. He could even feel it from the sharpness in her body. This was a sword cultivator with golden spiritual roots. I thought that Meng Wei would force things, but I didn't expect that he could understand the general idea so well. He is just a named disciple, nothing. Immediately, Zhong Jingguo agreed. Not bad, very good. Following Zhong Jingguo's nod, Meng Wei immediately waved to the valley and said, "Sister, come quickly and pay homage to Master." Sun Qinyang followed without hesitation. She knew that she had taken advantage of Meng Wei, and she also knew why Meng Wei chose to become his master. This gives them the biggest shield in the sect. After the two stood side by side, they greeted each other at the same time. "I've met Master." "Okay, very good." "Ha ha ha, I haven't been this happy for a long time. Today is a good day. Go inside and there is an iron chain bridge. See if there is anything on the bridge that can catch your eyes. Then take it as your teacher. A meeting gift for you all." Meeting gift. Both of them were stunned. They were actually not very interested in magical weapons. Sun Qinyang thought that she already had a sword that she already had, and it would be useless to get another one. But Meng Wei has no interest in magical weapons. However, when they were brought to the chain bridge by Zhong Jingguo, they were stunned. Is this an ordinary magic weapon? Once again, it is also a top-grade magic weapon. Further up, there is the spiritual weapon. Hey, is there a sword there? Sun Qinyang's eyes lit up, and she was immediately attracted by a lightweight spiritual sword. This is a real spiritual sword. Why, a sword cultivator will come here. Just as Sun Qinyang passed by, Qi Fuxian's voice came over, and a pressure immediately pressed Sun Qinyang on the bridge, unable to move. "Uncle Qi, don't do it, this is my new disciple." Zhong Jingguo immediately teleported away and blocked in front of Sun Qinyang, and the pressure immediately dissipated. "Jingguo, you have never accepted a disciple, why did you accept a sword cultivator as soon as you accepted a disciple?" Qi Fuxian looked at Zhong Jingguo indifferently, but in his heart, he was thinking, what is this kid's plan? Zhong Jingguo laughed and told what happened before, there was nothing to hide. But when he learned that even Dan Lao wanted to accept Meng Wei as a disciple, he couldn't help but look at Meng Wei. It doesn't matter if you don't look, as soon as he saw it, his pupils immediately shrank. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 626. No spiritual roots. Qi Fuxian said these three words calmly. What? No spiritual roots? Suddenly, Zhong Jingguo couldn't help but exclaimed. In terms of Qi Fuxian's strength, Zhong Jingguo didn't panic him. Both of them were at the peak of the late nascent soul. Even if Qi Fuxian stayed in this realm for a long time, he focused on refining weapons, but his fighting skills were not as good as Zhong Jingguo. But in terms of vision, even 10 Zhong Jingguo are not enough to defeat Qi Fuxian. Yes, without spiritual roots, how can you cultivate to the elixir forming stage? Qi Fuxian stared straight at Meng Wei, who was so shocked that Meng Wei took several steps back. But Sun Qinyang was worried that Meng Wei would suffer a loss, so she stood in front of Meng Wei with her sword. No need to be nervous, Qi Fuxian smiled faintly. Little girl, tell me, how did you reach the elixir forming stage? How can you absorb spiritual energy and refine it for your own use without spiritual roots, so as to embark on the path to immortality? Zhong Jingguo pondered for a while, then helped Meng Wei to speak. Uncle Qi, the world is so big, there are all kinds of wonders. It was said that Ye Yang, who came from Chuzhu in the Ya realm, had no spiritual roots, so he could still cultivate to that level. Ye Yang. Qi Fuxian snorted coldly and said, according to my review of countless classics and folklore, I concluded that Ye Yang has no ability at all. The reason why he went rampant in the Peeper realm and finally went to the spirit world was entirely because of his soul-chasing hammer. With one blow, his soul was shattered, so no one dared to come forward to fight with him. This created Ye Yang's undefeated myth. What does Uncle Qi mean? That Ye Yang has cultivated his body to the extreme before he can drive the hammer. From what I can see, the soul-chasing hammer must be a fairy-level treasure. Otherwise, how can it be so strong? And such a treasure must be protected. If the Lord's effect is combined with his body, no one can hurt him. When Qi Fuxian said this, he didn't want to talk about Ye Yang anymore. Instead, he turned his attention back to Meng Wei and said, this little girl can cultivate to this level without spiritual roots. Come to think of it, she is the fire spirit body. Fire spirit. Zhong Jingguo took a breath. It is said that there are various physical bodies in the world of immortality. The so-called fire spirit body is extremely close to the power of fire spirit. Practicing fire spells and magical powers can get twice the result with half the effort, and there is no bottleneck to even achieve breakthroughs. As long as you reach a certain level, you will naturally make a breakthrough. But this is just a rumor and no one has ever seen it. That's right, this girl is most likely to be a fire spirit. If she stays with our fire dragon sect, her future fortune will be limitless. Jin Kingdom, it seems that after the secret realm of the Book of Heaven, the fire dragon sect can stand still in Pipa. This little girl is very important. Qi Fuxian's last words were communicated to Zhong Jingguo through sound transmission, and neither Meng Wei nor Sun Qiniang could hear them. But the two women were extremely intelligent, so they naturally guessed what was going on. Okay, you go back to the valley to practice. I don't have anything to discuss with Uncle Qi. Zhong Jingguo knew that Qi Fuxian might have more important things to tell him next, so he sent the two women away. But just as he turned around, Qi Fuxian suddenly called out to Meng Wei. When she stopped, when she turned around, he threw a bead casually. This is a pseudo-fire spirit bead that I have refined for many years. I think it will also be of great use to your cultivation. Practice hard and strive to reach the peak of the late stage of pill formation after the secret realm of the Book of Heaven is over. Before Meng Wei could react, the bead had already entered her palm. Zhong Jingguo said, why don't you thank the Supreme Elder quickly? Meng Wei quickly thanked him, and then he and Sun Qiniang returned along the original path and reached the valley. Uncle Qi, that fake fire bead. Zhong Jingguo could see that it was not a magic weapon at all. He is not as good at refining weapons as Qi Fuxian, but that doesn't mean he knows nothing. Ha ha ha, Jingguo, you don't understand, those beads are good things. You have to teach that little girl carefully. Yes, Uncle Qi, Jingguo knows. Zhong Jingguo's heart sank. He had already guessed that Qi Fuxian had ulterior motives. Wei, I didn't expect that as soon as you broke through, you would break through to the middle stage of pill formation. Sun Qiniang's face was full of bitterness. Meng Wei was thoughtful and said, Tianming, do you believe in the fire spirit body? Sun Qiniang shook her head and said, you have spiritual roots, but as for the fire spirit body, it is nonsense. That's right, Meng Wei smiled sweetly and said, do you think it's possible to give us such nice things without any trouble? You know, it's only our first day here. To be courteous for nothing is to be either a traitor or a thief. This hypocrite, the fire spirit bead looks very rich in fire spirit power, but I definitely won't use it for cultivation. Let's find out about Zuyun as soon as possible, and then let Aniao pick us up quickly. We shouldn't stay here for a long time. Sun Qiniang played with the long sword in her hand and said, but the thing given is real. This sword, I think it is very strong. She guessed right, this sword was actually forged and refined by Feng and He. After being tempered by the Sky Fire Dragon, it is also a spiritual sword. Isn't it comparable to ordinary spiritual swords? The reason why the sword is here with Qi Fuxian is because Qi Fuxian also participated in the annihilation of the Lin family. Although he is not a monk who uses swords, he followed Feng and He to come to this sword, but he wanted to find out the sword refining method of the sword refining sect and see if he could get some insights into refining weapons from it. It's a pity that he has been watching for many years, and apart from knowing that the sword has a good grasp of the fire, there is nothing else that can arouse his interest. Because of this, he gave it to Sun Qiniang. By the way, they seem to have talked about some secret realm of heavenly books. Do you think Zuyun will go there too? Meng Wei suddenly said. Sun Qiniang thought about it and felt that it was very likely that Sun Qiniang had traveled with Zuyun in both the secret realm of Zilang Peak in Yaezhu and the secret realm of Huilingzhu in the Wild Sea. Then maybe Zuyun could really go to the secret realm of heavenly books in the Peepa realm. Or, shall we leave now? After careful consideration, Sun Qiniang felt that the fire dragon sex incident made them feel a little out of control, and Meng Wei directly broke through to the middle stage of Jindan and was accepted as a disciple by the sect master. If he wanted to avenge Chen Hua again, it might not be easy. Then, they could choose to leave. Let's go. Meng Wei nodded immediately, and Sun Qiniang took out a whistle from her bosom, put it to her lips and blew it gently. This was the whistle they had contacted with Aniao, and it was made by Sun Suanhua. As long as you blow it with spiritual power, you can pass through the clouds and reach the sky thousands of feet above your head. If Aniao can hear it, it will come down to pick them up. However, after a stick of incense, there was no movement here at all. Now, the two women are a little panicked. What's going on? Where is Aniao? Meng Wei took a deep breath and said. I don't know either. Could it be that Aniao didn't hear it, or has it left? Aniao is their trump card for escape. Seeing that there are more than 10 Yuanying stage here, and even several Yuanying late peak, they have no choice but to escape. It's impossible to fight for it. Aniao can't abandon us and leave. Meng Wei shook her head firmly. She knew Aniao earlier and knew that Aniao was not such a person. Indeed, he is the Demon King. But before he recovered his memory, he always thought of himself as a human. What should we do? Sun Qiniang also showed anxiety on her face. She looked up at the sky, which was endless and there was no movement at all. Maybe Aniao has left for something. Meng Wei thought for a while and said, since we can't leave for a while, let's stay here for a while and see what happens. That's the only way. Sun Qiniang looked at the sword in her hand, raised her head and said, how about we have a fight? In the sect master's hall, Zhong Jingguo sat at the top, and in front of him was Zhong Jiangjao. Zhong Jiangjao lowered his head and didn't dare to look directly at his father. I don't know what to say. Zhong Jingguo had a cold face. He already knew that Lian Nishang was missing, and even Dan Lao didn't know where she went. Dad, I have been in seclusion and have never seen Lian Nishang. Moreover, someone came to snatch the entrance bead, and I couldn't beat him. Later, I disappeared. There is still one entrance bead left, is it in your hand? Zhong Jingguo did not blame him, but shook his head and said. Yes, I hid the last entrance bead. Humph, Zhong Jingguo snorted coldly, and said, do you know how to use your brain now? You have been protected by me since you grew up, and I have arranged your cultivation. If I go to the spirit world one day, how can you be the leader of the fire dragon sect? Dad, didn't you say that you would arrange for me to form a pill and become an infant? By then, all the Yuanying stage of Peepa realm will leave, and I will be the only one left. Who dares to mess with my fire dragon sect? Zhong Jiangjao said with his head slightly lowered. Arrange? I have arranged it. But what about you? How many times have I told you not to let Lian Nishang go? But now, where is Lian Nishang? Without her Yuan Yin, how can you achieve the nascent soul stage? Dad, why do you have to choose Lian Nishang? Can't other female cultivators do it? Hearing Zhong Jiangjio ask this, Zhong Jingguo showed a meaningful smile. If you hadn't let Mengwei enter the sect this time, your father, I really couldn't help you break through to the nascent soul stage. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 627. Mengwei. Zhong Jiangjio suddenly looked stern. Ever since Lian Nishang disappeared, and without Zhong Yingxia by his side to persuade him, Zhong Jiangjio has long been unable to control his lower body. Coupled with the deliberate indulgence of those nascent soul elders, he has been addicted to women for a long time. After meeting Mengwei and Sun Qiniang, they naturally became lustful. However, they had just returned from practicing dual cultivation outside, and the mixed spiritual power in their bodies had not yet been resolved, so they did not rush to take action. Unexpectedly, his father meant that Mengwei could also break through to the nascent soul stage. That's right, this woman is not only wanted by Elder Dan to take her as his disciple, but also by that old guy Qi Fuxian who wants to get in. Naturally, I don't believe in the fire spirit body. But that Mengwei Yuanyin, she is still here, still a virgin, and her Yuanyin must be even worse than Lian Nishang. Hearing Zhong Jingguo's analysis, Zhong Jiangjio couldn't help but be overjoyed. This meant that he could practice both according to the order. With his father's consent, he didn't have any psychological burden at all. But while he was ecstatic, Zhong Jingguo said, now that we have Mengwei, the plan remains unchanged, except that Lian Nishang has been replaced by Mengwei. Remember, if you obtain the Book of Heaven and become a father, passage to the spirit world, when the time comes, remember to practice with concentration and strive to come to the spirit world as soon as possible. My father will be waiting for you there. Yes, Dad. The kid remembers it. Once again hearing that Zhong Jingguo had paved the way for him, Zhong Jiangjio was extremely excited. Even this kind of excitement completely suppressed the lust in the body. By the way, Dad, what about Sun Tianming? She. Zhong Jingguo said calmly, I can see that Sun Tianming is very protective of his shortcomings, which shows that the relationship between the two women is irreconcilable. Even if they are not biological sisters, they will definitely stand up for each other. However, his father has his own arrangements, so Sun Tianming will let him go first. She. When you take away Mengwei's Yuanyin and become the ancestor of Yuanying, how can she resist if you try to touch Sun Tian's life? Zhong Jiangjio nodded repeatedly and praised, Father is still thoughtful, but Dad, there is only one entry bead now. If Mengwei is still allowed to enter the secret realm of the Book of Heaven, is it necessary? It doesn't matter, Dad has his own solution for this. Tianzhenzi died in the section you said, let's bring a bad guy to complain first. Zhong Jiangjio's eyes lit up. From the perspective of the nascent soul stage, only Tianzhenzi of the Tianzhen sect could take action. Of course, they are also supreme elders who have retreated to death, but those who have understood the formation path have long stopped asking about the affairs of the sect. Just like Qi Fuxian, he can still show off. Not to mention the Tianzhen sect. So, next, you should take good care of the two sisters in the sect and meet any requirements as much as possible. By the way, it is best to let Mengwei cultivate to the peak of the late stage of pill formation before the secret realm of the Book of Heaven opens. Remember, no matter what the cost, anyway, the stronger she is, the more you absorb her Yuanyin, the more it will become yours. Dad, I remember it, then go to Tianzhen sect and ask for the beads. Instead, Zhong Jiangjio began to urge Zhong Jingguo. Well, you should keep a low profile these days. Before the secret realm of the heavenly book, our fire dragon sect could not withstand any hardships. After saying that, Zhong Jingguo let out a long sigh, and then disappeared from the place. In the valley, Mengwei and Sun Qiniang were panting and dripping with fragrant sweat. Although Meng Wei's level was a little higher than that of Sun Qiniang, the sword cultivator was already superior in strength, and the two fought evenly. At this time, they were sitting side by side. Sun Qiniang blew the whistle again. But, still no response. Wei, Sun Qiniang turned her head and said, "You are too scary. If you hadn't mastered the magical power of fire, I would have been defeated this time. You should be satisfied." Meng Wei curled his lips and said, "You're getting a bargain, but you behave like a good boy. I'm a small level higher than you, but I can't do anything to you. If my natal magical weapon is still there, I'm afraid I can fight with you. Let's compete with your sword." "This sword?" Sun Qiniang smiled slightly and said, "Wei, I'm afraid you don't understand this sword. This is a spiritual sword. I don't know how skilled the Supreme Elder is in refining weapons, but he can actually refine such a sword. It's also in my realm. It's not enough, otherwise if you are connected with the sword spirit, you can command it like an arm. No matter how good the spirit sword is, it can't compare to my knife. I don't know how powerful that knife will be in Urgu's hands." "You mean, that knife of yours is also a spiritual weapon?" Sun Qiniang asked for no reason, but her mind was searching for the memory of Jian Tianming. The knife was strange and inexplicable, and would glow red from time to time. What was even more magical was that the knife would also absorb spiritual power, support the blade, and transform it into demonic spiritual power for Meng Wei to use. I had no idea before, but now that I think about it carefully, I can't help but wonder. If a weapon spirit is a spiritual weapon, then my knife is a spiritual weapon. Meng Wei raised his head slightly and looked into the distance, wondering what he was thinking. At this time, the two dogs were fighting in the wild sea, looking for the elixir for the big dog to refine the elixir for Tang Liwen to grow his arm again. She has been staying at the highest point of Lingjian sect, where no one dares to go up, and it is extremely quiet. However, she still had nothing to do. She asked Zhou for some spirit stones and set up a star-moving formation for the Lingjian sect to use as a mountain-protecting formation. This is an incredible thing in Yunzhou. But no matter what, the group of Jindan stage of the Fire Dragon sect who wanted to attack the Spirit Sword sect would definitely return in vain. However, whether they would be spared or not, that was unknown. At this time, Zhu Yun and Lian Nishang were practicing in Huaitan Valley. In order to avoid causing trouble, they did not plan to leave the valley. Especially Zhu Yun, because he took the water spirit beads from Lake Baiwa, the strange phenomenon at night disappeared. However, for thousands of years, the deeply rooted concept has not been discovered for the time being, and Lake Baiwa has actually become an ordinary lake. But Zhu Yun didn't care at all. Even if someone found out, who would think of him? In recent days, Feng and he took Xianxia and Feng Qingyang to prepare something, and Zhu Yun was happy to be quiet and was doing his own thing. For example, he learned some magic spells of the fire system from Lian Nishang. So far, he doesn't know many spells, not to mention that he has no water system, only one kind of fire system, only the fire spell. Moreover, he had already cultivated the fire separation curse to the extreme. Apart from that, there were only some unorthodox practices in the eyes of ordinary cultivators. Today, Zhu Yun was drawing talismans. He and Lian Nishang each had one of the heaven-changing talisman. At that time, 3 were drawn, and 2 were given to Lian Nishang. After using one, there was one left, and each kept it just in case. Moreover, the 2 agreed on a secret code. So that if they had to separate after entering the heavenly book secret realm, and each of them had disguised themselves, they would use the secret code to identify their identities. Huo Qinjue, what are these talismans? Lian Nishang was only proficient in fire-related spells, so naturally she could not recognize Zhu Yun's talismans. The Fire Phoenix talisman is just enough for the den-forming stage. After I draw it, you can fill it yourself. I think you have a single type fire spiritual root. The purer the fire-related spiritual power, the greater the power it will have. Zuyun said without stopping his hands and without raising his head. You can actually draw the Fire Phoenix talisman. Lian Nishang was surprised. Zuyun smiled and said, if I didn't know anything, how could Aunt Tang teach me a talisman? It's just that I haven't completely found the trick of the spiritual talisman she taught me. It's just right to draw some for you to keep on your body for self-defense, and also find an opportunity to comprehend from it. Fire Chinjua, I'm really curious, how many tricks do you have? Lian Nishang blinked and asked seriously. This. Zuyun paused, and the half of the talisman immediately surged with spiritual power and turned into ashes. Too much, I can't tell. He stood up, smiled and spread his hands, saying it in a true and false way. Boasting. Lian Nishang curled her lips, and then walked to the other side, saying as she walked, I'm going to practice for a while, don't come to disturb me. Zuyun watched him leave, and he was relieved. These days, it's nothing to be followed by Lian Nishang. But the key is that she has always been wearing Menghui's face, which makes him very uncomfortable. But there is no legitimate reason for her to change back. If he wants to blame someone, he can only blame himself for thinking of Menghui first. If I had known earlier, it would have been better to draw a picture of Sun Qiniang, so that I would have saved a lot of trouble. Thinking of Menghui, Zuyun's heart was somewhat confused, wondering how she is now. When he left Yunzhou again, he promised Menghui that he would find her a longevity pill that was not made from blood ginseng, so as to solve her urgent needs. Later, he didn't expect that there was a longevity pill that could be refined in the medicine garden of the fairy mansion. Menghui, Menghui, you must not die. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 628. A sneeze. From the Fire Dragon sect, Menghui sneezed for no reason, startling Sun Qiniang. She frowned and asked, isn't it right? Even a dignified alchemy monk can also suffer from wind and cold. Menghui shook his head and said, I don't know, but my nose suddenly felt itchy. As she spoke, she rubbed the tip of her nose. Sun Qiniang laughed out loud and said, does anyone miss you? Menghui raised his eyebrows and said, Zuyun. He will miss you. Impossible. Sun Qiniang immediately retorted, that's just a big piece of wood. I think the only people he cares about are senior brother Zhou and senior brother Meng. Are you talking about the big dog and the second dog? Menghui sat down, cupped his chin and said, I don't know what Zuyun's life was like as a mortal before, but he is closer to those two than real brothers. More than that. Sun Qiniang was deeply touched and said, Zuyun killed my two brothers with his own hands, but now I don't hate him at all. Menghui didn't know much about Sun Qiniang's original identity. Hearing Sun Qiniang talk about it like this, he immediately became interested and asked, tell me about it. You're so rude. Sun Qiniang rolled her eyes at her, then sighed and fell into memories. She told everything about what happened at that time and her thoughts, which made Menghui click his tongue in surprise. Zuyun seems to be a person in the game, but from the perspective of bystanders, the world is indeed awake. However, I didn't expect that you were able to force out the golden elixir that Jian Tianming was ambushing because of this. Sun Qiniang smiled bitterly and said, I don't know either. I can only say, everything is determined by heaven, right? As she said that, she touched her eyebrows involuntarily and thought to herself, Jian Tianming, I don't know if you are really dead or if you are pretending to be dead. But even if you fake death and want to take my son Qiniang's body again, I can't let you succeed. The two talked about the past and had no intention of practicing anymore until Zhong Jiangjao suddenly appeared at the entrance of the valley. You two junior sisters, how is your practice going today? Zhong Jiangjao suppressed all the lust in his heart, and on the surface, he seemed to be a humble gentleman. Thank you for your concern, young sect master. We have just finished practicing and are planning to take a break. We just realized it after Li Yili. Sun Qinyang had already been on guard, and rushed in front of Meng Wei to block Zhong Jiangjao. Meng Wei might not feel anything, but Sun Qinyang could tell that the way Zhong Jiangjao looked at him was completely different from the way he looked at Meng Wei. Junior sister Sun, do you want to call the young sect leader more students? You should call me senior brother. Zhong Jiangjao felt angry in his heart, and secretly thought that after I take away Meng Wei's Yuan Yin, I will let you suffer all the humiliation under my crotch. But at this time, he had to put on a smile. Lian Nishang disappeared for no reason, almost ruining his plan with Zhong Jingguo. In other words, it almost ruined his path to immortality as he continued to practice. Let's call him young sect leader. Sun Qinyang didn't care. If Zhong Jiangjao dared to make a mistake, he would dare to fight him. Sword cultivation is all about practicing qi. In the same territory, the enemy is stronger and I am stronger. What's more, Sun Qinyang has such a temper. Junior sister Sun, if you have something to say, please tell me. If you encounter any bottleneck in your practice, even though senior brother doesn't know the way of swordsmanship, I can help you find the sex classics and see if I can be of some help. It doesn't take much effort, master, but I don't even know what the swordsmanship I practice is. Sun Qinyang's words directly made Zhong Jiangjao shut up. When I looked at Meng Wei again, I didn't know what to say. I could only say a few insignificant words and then left. Wei, if we can't contact a bird anymore, I'm afraid we have to leave as soon as possible. Watching Zhong Jiangjao leave the valley with her own eyes, Sun Qinyang said solemnly. Meng Wei had a different opinion, saying, without a Niao, our escape would be bound to be unforeseen dangers. As long as a nascent soul stage comes out, where can we escape? Both of them had calculated everything, but they didn't expect that they would suddenly be unable to contact a Niao. As everyone knows, a Niao is somewhere in a mountain col, unconscious and struggling. Neither of them could convince the other, so they had no choice but to stay in the Fire Dragon sect. Day to day. Until Zhong Jingguo returned from Tianzhen sect and brought back a gateway bead. Dad, did you really get it? Zhong Jiangjao took the beads and was very happy. As long as he breaks through the nascent soul stage in the secret realm of the Book of Heaven, he will kill all the alchemy monks in the secret realm. In this way, not only will the heavenly book fall into his hands, but no one from other sects will be able to break through to nascent soul in a short period of time, right? At that time, the entire Peepa realm, spiritual stones, elixirs, and beauties will all belong to me, Zhong Jiangjao. That's natural. Time is running out, take Meng Wei to Huaitan Valley to prepare. Zhong Jingguo waved his hand, indicating that Zhong Jiangjao could go find Meng Wei. But Zhong Jiangjao stood still and said, Dad, Sun Tianming seems to have discovered something in the past few days. He has been blocking me from talking to Meng Wei. If I bring Meng Wei with me like this, let's go, will you? It doesn't matter, I will call her here later with my master's orders. After she does something good for me, you will naturally leave with Meng Wei. Zhong Jingguo thought for a moment, took out a golden leaf-like magic weapon from his arms, and said, I'll take this top-notch flying boat for you. By the way, Sun Tianming, do you want her to die or not? She lives. Zhong Jiangjao's face was serious, and he smiled sinisterly and said, of course I want her to live. Unless I go to the spirit world, otherwise, she can't even think about dying. On the contrary, Zhong Jingguo was very satisfied with Zhong Jiangao's performance at this time. He nodded and said, Aoer, those who achieve great things don't stick to trivial matters. One general can achieve thousands of bones. As long as you can continue to practice, it doesn't matter if some people die. You have to remember, respect heaven and earth, no need to respect other people. Zhong Jiangjao blurted out, "Dad, what about you?" "I." Zhong Jingguo suddenly smiled and said, "Unless one day, your strength far exceeds mine, otherwise, your father is still your father, so you must respect him." Zhong Jiangjao lowered his head, "I know, Dad." "Then I'll go get ready." "Go." Zhong Jingguo waved his hand, and Zhong Jiangjao was lightly led out of the door by spiritual power. After waiting outside for a few breaths, Zhong Jiangjao finally left. Obviously, those words just now touched his heart a little bit. Zhong Jingguo murmured to himself, "If I hadn't promised your mother, why would I have interfered with so much of your business? Respect heaven? Respect earth? We, the cultivators, are going against heaven, so how can we respect it?" In the valley. "Junior sister Meng, my father is back and has specially brought the entrance beads for you. Let's go to Huayton Valley quickly to prepare." A moment ago, Sun Qiniang was summoned away by the secret order of the sect master. He said that he had found a sword manual, but Sun Qiniang did not doubt that he was there. She just said go and come, but there was no trace of him. And Zhong Jiangjao also took the opportunity to come here. Is it just me and the young sect leader? Meng Wei blinked, faintly smelling a conspiracy. Yes, the entry beads are extremely rare. We, like the Fire Dragon sect, only have 2 places. My father said that you are a unique genius, so he overcame all objections and gave the other one to you. And there is a sudden change in the secret realm. It may need to be activated in advance. Therefore, my father also gave me a magic weapon." After saying that, Zhong Jiangjao flicked his hand, golden light passed by, and a flying boat appeared in front of Meng Wei. Meng Wei's eyes flickered, and after just thinking for a moment, she said, "Young sect leader, please wait a moment. If my sister comes and can't find me, I'm afraid she will be anxious. I'll leave a letter to her and it won't be too late to leave." Meng Wei knew that Zhong Jiangjao must have made complete preparations. "Then you can only take one step first." Okay. "Hurry up then, I'll wait for you." Zhong Jiangjao thought to himself, if Sun Qiniang went to live with my father, what kind of trouble could she still make? "Let's take a look at your letter when I come back after I achieve nascent soul." Watching Meng Wei enter a room, Zhong Jiangjao sneered in his heart. After a while, Meng Wei had left the letter and returned. She didn't say anything more and stepped onto the flying boat. Shi Shiren said, "Young sect master, let's set off quickly. Junior sister Meng, sit tight. This top-notch flying boat is very fast, and it is a magical weapon in the nascent soul stage." Zhong Jiangjao smiled proudly, drove the flying boat, and flew all the way toward the northeast. At the same time, the sects in the entire Peepa realm also began to become lively. The secret realm of the Book of Heaven is opened once every 1,000 years. But no one knows whether every breath is accurate every time. Naturally, we set out in advance to be prepared. Countless monks from all directions, each showing their magical powers, gathered towards Peepa State. In Huayton Valley, masters will gather together soon. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 629. Is this Lake Baipa? Meng Wei took a flying boat, flew over Peepa Lake, and finally landed in Peepa State. However, they did not enter the valley. Yes, this is the center of the entire Peepa realm. It is said that this lake prohibits spirits during the day. Only at night can monks like us come to this lake. There was a strange color in Zhong Jiangjiao's eyes, and he suppressed the desire in his heart. No wonder, with the moon hanging so high, there are still many monks coming. Meng Wei looked casually in one direction, and from time to time, people landed in all directions of Pipa Prefecture. It seems that they have the same idea as us. When the secret realm of the heavenly book is opened, all monks below the nascent soul stage who are in Pipa state and hold the bead of entrance will be sucked into it. I see, Mengwei nodded, and suddenly asked, then if we are sucked in, will we appear in the same place, or will we be separated? It is said that they will be separated, but my father has been prepared for it for a long time. If you take this magic weapon, I will be able to find your location by then. Zhongjiang took out a bracelet from his arms with a proud smile, handed it to Mengwei, and said, you have to put it on. Those who come here are all geniuses in the Pipa realm, or have been famous for a long time, but the old monster who has been stuck in the core formation stage for many years. Don't wander around until I find you. Mengwei had already been wary, but he still took the bracelet, thinking that they would be separated after entering the secret realm, so he took off the bracelet. After putting on the bracelet, Zhongjiang smiled proudly and said, by the way, junior sister Meng, after this bracelet is infused with spiritual power, it can also transmit sounds. As long as I'm within 1,000 miles, I can hear your voice. You just broke through from the foundation building stage at the stage of forming the elixir. Be sure not to talk to some strangers, people's hearts are unpredictable, and the secret realm of the heavenly book is tacitly approved by the senior nascent souls, so you can kill at will. Mengwei was extremely calm in her heart. When it came to killing people, she had killed many people in the Danjing stage of Wanjian Mountain back then. However, she still had a look of fear on her face and said quickly, young sect master, I will be careful. You have to find me through this bracelet as soon as possible. Don't worry, at my level, as long as they are not fighting for the Book of Heaven, most people still don't dare to mess with me. Zhongjiang patted his chest and promised, but he thought in his heart, when I find you, take away your Yuanyan, and then reach the Yuanying stage, I will kill the entire secret realm of the Book of Heaven. That's good, Mengwei breathed a sigh of relief, then pointed to the huge circular mountain pass in the middle of the island and said, don't we go into this valley? No need, it is the territory of the sword refining section. We, the Fire Dragon sect, should not go in if we can. I heard that there is also a crazy nascent soul stage inside. The secret realm of the Book of Heaven is about to be opened, so we'd better not provoke others. Oh. Mengwei nodded lightly and turned his gaze elsewhere. At the same time, outside Lake Baipa, there were countless nascent soul stages gathered together. They were so conceited, each wearing a hypocritical smile. Even though there are many nascent souls who have just returned from the Beast Pet Pavilion, at this time, they are still facing a competition, and it is even possible that their respective disciples will never come back. Like Zhong Jingguo, they all regarded the Book of Heaven as their last hope of breaking through to the spiritual world. If their interests conflict, they will naturally not treat each other sincerely. A few more days passed. In the Pipa realm, almost all the monks with quotas have arrived. There are even some who don't have entry beads and come to Pipa state. Before the secret realm of the Book of Heaven is opened, there is also an unwritten rule. Even the nascent soul monks are not allowed to go to the island to avoid accidents. Therefore, the entire Pipa state, except for some monks living in the periphery of Huaytan Valley, is already crowded with people in the entire Pipa realm who are in the alchemy stage. But they had a tacit understanding and stayed in the same place without any conflicts. Until one night 3 days later, a strong wind suddenly started blowing in the cloudless night sky. Thick dark clouds came from nowhere, appeared out of thin air, and in the blink of an eye, covered the full moon. The surroundings were dark for no reason. Is this, about to be turned on? It's been another 1,000 years. The secret realm of the Book of Heaven is open again. Yes, I remember my master said that when the sky is blocked and the sun is blocked, that is when the secret realm of the Book of Heaven is opened. On the outskirts of Lake Baipa, countless nascent soul cultivators murmured. At this time, they no longer pay attention to the secret realm of the Book of Heaven. Instead, after all the disciples enter the secret realm, they will also start preparations to destroy all the demonic monks lurking in the Peepa realm. Far away, a figure is heading here in the dark. Seeing countless nascent souls gathering here, he wanted to take a detour. He is none other than Zhu Feng. In the demon refining tower, after obtaining the 9 generations demonic skill from Wuchideo, he did temporarily give up the idea of dealing with Zhu Yun. But when he was about to find a place to set up the demon refining tower and practice demon skills, he discovered that something big seemed to be happening in the Peepa realm. Everything I saw and heard along the way, I heard the words secret realm of the Book of Heaven. At this time, he was no longer interested in the reality of the secret realm. With the 9 transformation demonic skills and the demon refining tower, he can completely support him to practice for 9 lives, form a pill and become an infant, thus sweeping the Peepa realm and becoming the number 1 person in the mortal world. But when he saw more and more monks and heard more and more news, Zhu Feng couldn't sit still and rushed towards this place. It turns out that only the pill forming stage can be entered. Then if I enter it, with the power of the demon refining tower, wouldn't I be able to put them into the tower and save them for me to practice my magic skills? This will save me the trouble of looking for people elsewhere. Zhu Yun secretly thought that this was his plan. No matter how secret the realm is, no matter how many treasures there are, they are not as useful to him as a monk. 9 life magic requires practicing for 9 lives, and the amount of spiritual power required is almost incalculable. The wilderness is indeed nice, but with fewer people and fewer creatures, it will also have an impact on his progress in cultivation. So, he came and wanted to take the opportunity to sneak into the secret realm of the Book of Heaven and take away all the monks inside. It would be great if we could still obtain the rumored heavenly book. But what Zhu Feng didn't expect was that there were many nascent soul stage people here, and they were even more ready to attack the demonic monks. He was so sneaky, how could he escape some nascent soul stage perceptions? Demon Cultivator. A Yuanying monk from the Suanji sect suddenly frowned and immediately looked in the direction of Zhu Feng. What? Is there really a demon cultivator who wants to sneak into the secret realm of the Book of Heaven? A group of nascent souls discussed this matter during the conference. The secret realm of the heavenly book only recognizes the beads and not the people. If a demonic cultivator sneaks into Peepa state and robs other people of the beads when the secret realm is opened, this is not a good thing. Although they are extremely confident that after the secret realm is over, they can definitely kill the demon cultivator by guarding Peepa state. But what has happened is a real slap in the face to those in the nascent soul stage. Externally, what they care about most is their face. How can they let others trample on them? Zhu Feng had just walked to the lake and was about to gather his breath and fly over, but he didn't expect that several spiritual consciousnesses swarmed in and all landed on him. Not good. Zhu Feng's pupils shrank. Being suspicious by nature, he knew that he would not be paid attention to by so many people in the nascent soul stage for no reason. There was obviously something wrong. He made a prompt decision and sacrificed the demon refining tower without hesitation, then stepped on it and flew straight in the direction of Peepa Prefecture. It's that boy. A man with a strange face stood out from the crowd of Haoshan sect. Yao Wuxi, do you recognize him? Beside, an old man with white hair and white beard, wearing loose robes, said in a deep voice. I recognize the one who turned into ashes. This is the boy who destroyed our demon-controlling saint sect. That tower, is the demon refining tower. As soon as these words came out, the whole place was in an uproar. How is it possible? Isn't the demon refining tower in Chuzhu, Yao realm? It is said that there are 12 great demon kings in it. That kid is only in the pill-forming stage. How can he have such ability to accept the demon refining tower? Yao Wuxi, you said that deliberately, don't you want us to help you take revenge? You're just making a fuss over a mere pill-forming demon cultivator. Watch me knock him down. Various tones of voice were spoken in turn, but one person still stood up and turned his hands into clouds and turned his hands into rain. As he pinched a magic formula in his palm, the water of People Lake quickly rushed out of several water columns and slammed towards the demon refining tower. But the demon refining tower is an ancient thing and is connected to Zhu Feng's heart. And Zhu Feng has been prepared for a long time. With his strength, it is absolutely impossible to escape the pursuit of the nascent soul stage. That's why he stepped on the tower and flew, hoping to take advantage of the tenacity of the demon refining tower itself. Sure enough, the water column fell in vain and did not shake the demon refining tower at all. This kid has some skills. Several nascent soul stages exclaimed again, and they also recognized the person who made the move. He was the leader of the Shui Yun section. He was solely connected with the water spirit root and had the ability to control water. He was unrivaled. Other people's water spiritual roots and water magical powers are mostly used to save people and heal injuries. But this person has suddenly realized the way of water. Everyone here can easily suppress him with only one palm. Even if he returns without success, you can know that this tower is really a demon refining tower. That boy refined the demon refining tower into a natal magic weapon. It seems that he is a demon cultivator without a doubt. However, how dare he come here in such a small period of pill formation? At this time, another old man stood up. The rest of the people's eyes turned to him. The reason why no one continued to take action was because the secret realm of the Book of Heaven was about to open, and they were afraid that there would be too much movement, thus affecting the secret realm. Pavilion Master, how should we respond? Yao Wuxi took a step forward and said seriously, "You are a highly respected person. This demonic cultivator destroyed our holy sect and massacred countless disciples of our holy section. He also killed 2 Yuanying stage disciples." A strange look flashed in the Pavilion Master's eyes, and he said, "He can even kill him at the nascent soul stage. Do you have any evidence?" "Have." Yao Wuxi took out a few photo beads from his arms and directly channeled his spiritual power. The picture he had prepared long ago was clearly projected on the lake. In the distance, Zhu Feng had just escaped a disaster. He breathed a sigh of relief and looked back. He also saw the familiar scene. He immediately knew why he was exposed. It turns out that there are such treasures in Peepa Realm. Humph, you're lucky that I didn't kill you. When I complete my 9th generation demonic power, I will be the first one to suck you up, the only seedling of the demon-controlling saint sect. At this moment, there was a sudden loud noise in the sky. The dark clouds receded and the full moon was revealed again. Just this moment. The full moon is constantly changing with 5 kinds of brilliance. It is the journey of the 5 elements of metal, wood, water, fire, and earth. The secret realm of the Book of Heaven is about to open. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 630. Zhu Feng only looked up and quickly looked away. After his body was revealed, he had no intention of staying here any longer. At the critical moment, he wanted to quickly cross Baipa Prefecture and escape from the other side of Baipa Lake. The secret realm of the heavenly book requires entrance beads. If they are not discovered by these nascent soul stages, they can sneak to the island and kill anyone to steal the beads. But he knew very well that after entering the secret realm, he became a turtle in a urn. The moment he came out, it was the time of his death. So, I wish you style and calmness. But this time, an unusual scene appeared in the secret realm of the Book of Heaven. Regardless of whether there are entry beads or not. As long as everyone is within the scope of Peepa state, they will be sucked into it. Whether it is blessing the wind. Feng Qingyang is still preparing. Or some monks who came to the island early to see if there was any chance to fish in troubled waters. At this moment, everyone disappeared on the spot. Apart from Huayden Valley, the only nascent soul stage is Feng and he. It's strange, Why was Qingyang sent in before I even exerted any force? Feng An, he murmured, as if he suddenly remembered something. He immediately flew out of the valley. Using the five-color moonlight, he looked around the entire island, but he couldn't find any life at all. Not only the monks, but also his peripheral disciples in Huaytan Valley are gone. No, something happened in the secret realm. So, what's wrong? Could it be the bottom of the lake? Feng An and Xian were shocked, but soon, he suddenly laughed wildly. Ha ha ha, ha ha ha. This is not bad. Xianxia. Before he finished speaking, countless figures suddenly appeared in front of him. Old man Feng, are you sick again? A female voice sounded, and Feng An he quickly looked up and said in surprise, Beauty, are you here too? Old man Feng, I almost forgot about you. There is still your nascent soul stage in the Peeper realm. Qi Fuxian flashed out from behind the crowd and floated in front of Feng An he. Old Qi, when will you return the sword to me? Feng An he glared and cursed. Sword? What sword? Qi Fuxian asked deliberately, and then suddenly realized, you said that sword was given away. He spread his hands and said disdainfully. You. Feng An he glared angrily and said, you don't practice swordsmanship yourself, so you deceived the sword from me. What if you don't return it, but give it to someone else? Zhong Jingguo stood beside Qi Fuxian at some point and said with a smile, Master Feng, Uncle Qi, didn't bury your sword. It happened to be given to one of my sword cultivator disciples. At this time, I think she was taking it I'm practicing hard with your sword. You. When Feng An he heard that he had given the sword cultivator, his anger also subsided a lot, and then he noticed that there were densely packed nascent soul cultivators standing in front of him. Although, they restrained their breath. But looking around, those monks who fought with him into the Lin family's ancestral land 100 years ago were actually there. In addition, there are also the sect leaders and elders of various major sects. Something happened in the secret realm of the Book of Heaven. Feng An he said in shock. Originally, he suspected that there was an accident at the bottom of the lake, but seeing that the entire Peeper realm was in the nascent soul stage, this idea was led away. Something happened, something happened. The pavilion master also stood up at this time and said, Feng An he, a demon cultivator just arrived here with the demon refining tower. It seems that the demon refining tower caused the abnormal movement in the secret realm, so, everyone is transported into the secret realm. Your Feng family has been here for thousands of years. Do you have an explanation for this? Demon refining tower. Feng An he screamed. Is it related to the demon refining tower? Seeing such a reaction, all the nascent souls asked questions one after another. I don't know, don't ask me, I don't know. Ha ha ha, I'm crazy, I'm crazy. Feng An he hugged his head suddenly, and suddenly the wind spirit power surged around his body, and his body rushed straight into the Baipa lake. This sudden change made all the nascent souls look at each other in shock. It's not that no one wants to stop Feng An he. In fact, wind spirit power is known for its speed and boundless dexterity. In addition, he rushed straight to the bottom of the lake without the permission of the pavilion master, so naturally no one would go down. Is Feng An he really crazy, or is he just pretending? Qi Fuxian frowned and said. That's crazy. The master of the pavilion sighed, and then said to everyone, we are here, so let's wait in Huaytan Valley. In the secret realm of the Book of Heaven, in March, we just don't have a place to stay. We should prepare well. It's time how to deal with the demon cultivator with the demon refining tower. Since something happened and they couldn't get involved, they naturally had to wait until someone came out. Within the secret realm, Zuyun and Lian Nishang were teleported in without any reaction. They also separated. Zuyun originally planned to give Lian Nishang a few sound transmission talismans, but before he could give them out, he appeared in the secret realm. I'm so angry, that's all that's missing. Zuyun curled his lips and then began to look at the secret realm. This seems to be a whole new world. Lush, with birds chirping and flowers fragrant. Even the air was exceptionally fragrant, and the abundant spiritual energy made him feel extremely comfortable. Could it be another piece of debris? Zuyun couldn't help but think, but obviously this was impossible. There must be a connection between the fragments and the Daewoo glazed mirror within a certain distance. In other words, this heavenly book secret realm has nothing to do with the immortal mansion. Now that I'm here, I can only find a way to read the heavenly book. I must get the heavenly book. It depends on whether Aunt Tang can recover her eyes. I don't know if she has cured the big dog's right arm now. Zuyun put away his thoughts, threw all distracting thoughts out of his mind, and then with a thought, he called out the three dogs. Huh! As soon as Sangu appeared, he was also shocked by the scene in front of him. Master, where is this place? I smell a strange smell. What does it smell like? Zuyun was stunned and asked quickly. I can't tell. How can I say it anyway? Sangu scratched his head and then said, it seems to be a bit similar to the aura on your body. Yes, that's right. It's very similar. Smells like me. Zuyun immediately became happy, smiled and patted his shoulder, saying, did you stay there for a long time and your nose failed? It's the first time I came to this secret realm. How could you possibly smell it, feeling like this? Impossible, Sangu said very calmly, Master, there is no way I can smell it wrong. Okay, you can't be wrong, you can't be wrong. Smell it for me, can you smell the scent of Lian Nishang? Lian Nishang. The expressions of Sangu changed. This name, when he was still the watchdog of the Fire Dragon sect, was like thunder in his ears. What, you don't know him? This was Zuyun's purpose in summoning the three dogs. I know you, of course I know you. The four major direct lineages of the Fire Dragon sect. Sangu's words opened Zuyun's eyes. He had never heard of anything like this. Zhongqi Danlian, these four surnames are the four main lines of the Fire Dragon section. Only people from the four lines are qualified to be the sect leader. However, at that time, I was always the Zhong family as the sect leader, and Lian Nishang seemed to he is the only descendant of the Lian family. The Dan people only know how to make pills, and the Qi family only know how to refine weapons. Sangu's words made Zuyun vaguely feel as if he had discovered something, but at this moment his mind was not there and he did not think much about it. Instead, he asked, tell me first if you can smell the scent of Lian Nishang. Can't smell it? Sangu simply shook his head. Zuyun said angrily, didn't you say that your nose is very good? Master, how long has it been since I smelled the scent of Lian Nishang? It's been hundreds of years, okay. Besides, Lian Nishang was not something I wanted to see back then. I could see it if I wanted to. However, I seem to remember that Lian Nishang is a single element. Fire spirit root, this is a direction you can look for. Wherever the fire power is stronger, you can look for it. As Sangu spoke, he paid attention to Zuyun's face. When he noticed that he had softened a little, he boldly smiled and said, Master, are you getting involved with Lian Nishang? No ivory comes out of a dog's mouth. Zuyun slapped him on the forehead. Sangu held his head in grievance and muttered, I don't have ivory in my mouth. Hurry up and smell which side has the most fire power. Sangu seemed to sense murderous intent from these words, fearing that Zuyun would beat him again, so he quickly closed his eyes and sniffed in all four directions. After a while, he opened his eyes and said with confusion, it's strange, I can't smell it at all. Can't you smell it? Zuyun frowned and said, why can't you smell it? Really, master? Seeing Zuyun doubting him, Sangu couldn't help but became anxious and said, I have smelled it over and over again, but the firepower aura on you is stronger. As for the other directions, it comes and goes, and it is impossible to determine which one is stronger. After hearing this explanation, Zuyun suddenly understood, and reluctantly let the three dogs return to the pasture. He sat down, thinking that this must be the reason for the secret realm. Maybe, it has something to do with the Book of Heaven? He went over the information about the Book of Heaven that Feng and he had told him in his mind, but found no useful information. After thinking for a moment, he made a decision in his mind. He stretched out his hand slightly, and the Chaos Sword appeared in his hand. Anyway, those who enter this secret realm are only in the Dan formation stage at most, and it is impossible for anyone to snatch his Chaos Sword. He threw it casually and said softly, "Chaos Sword, point me in the direction, and I will go wherever you point me." The Chaos Sword fell and was stuck straight in the soil. Zuyun stared and murmured, "Okay, are you asking me to go to the ground?" Buzz. The Chaos Sword made a clear sound, which meant that he could not be blamed. Also, how could such an immortal weapon look like a useless sword after being thrown down? At this moment, two figures suddenly landed in front of him. Later stage of pill formation. Or a sword cultivator. It seems he is a rogue cultivator. I don't know how he got in. Kill him and strip him naked. As soon as the words fell, the two men rushed straight towards Zuyun.